It was 6 arcs ago when Dragon Ball Super beautifully expanded the scale of its world through the introduction of the multiverse, which was a much needed direction for the new era of Dragon Ball because it opened up more opportunities for new and unique stories to be told. But ever since then, we've never visited or explored any of the other 11 universes, and that's a problem because the multiverse is being wasted. It's like the writers can't comprehend how big of a world they have at their hands to write stories with. Imagine how big one single universe is, billions of planets and millions of galaxies. Times that by 12, which is basically what Dragon Ball Super did by introducing the multiverse, and you have yourself countless new worlds and alien characters you could introduce to tell unique stories in different locations that we've never experienced in Dragon Ball. But what do the writers keep on doing? They still persist on keeping most of the arcs localized in Universe 7 despite having so many universes at their disposal which they could use to tell fresh stories. World building is crucial for a story to expand the scale of things. We need more alien races, more different planets, more different locations. Despite being introduced to an entire multiverse, it feels like we rarely ever leave Earth, and this makes Dragon Ball Super's world building appear small despite it being so huge. Look at the Broly movie, Universe 7, Moro arc, Universe 7, Granola arc, Universe 7, superhero movie, Universe 7. This video is not intended to shit on Super or critique the writing in those arcs and movies themselves, but to highlight the way the writers are choosing to ignore the world they have built, hence squandering its potential. The problem with sticking to Universe 7 is that most threats which are able to challenge Goku and Vegeta in Universe 7 have already been dealt with. Threats such as Frieza on Namek, Majin Buu in the Buu Saga, and Moro in his arc following the Broly movie. So now what keeps happening is that they are rehashing old villains like Broly, Frieza and Cell Max because it is becoming difficult to introduce new believable villains from Universe 7 who could challenge Goku and Vegeta given how powerful they've become. This could easily be solved if we just went to another universe and get new villains from there with different motivations, personalities and power. I mean, what's the point of introducing us to so many new gods and all these other different characters only for you to just do nothing with them? And although the Universe 6 vs 7 tournament and the Goku Black Saga tried to incorporate other universes, they still left a lot to be desired. For example, when are we visiting Universe 6? I'm sure most of you would have liked to learn more about Hit, maybe a backstory of how he ended up being an assassin, as well as Vegeta's visit to planet Sadala to learn more about the Universe 6 Saiyans. This problem of underusing the multiverse still persists into the Goku Black Saga. Despite me really liking the arc because of the villains we got, the writers did nothing to expand on Universe 10's world building. Most of the arc takes place on the ruins of Trunks' future timeline and the sacred world of the Kais, despite Zamasu and Goku Black having traveled across different timelines and universes, killing gods and mortals on other worlds. The sense of scale just feels small because we are told these things happen but we never see them. While most arcs of Super fail to make use of the multiverse, the Tournament of Power is where I feel like the writers completely dropped the ball and ruined the multiverse.
Let the Tournament of Power begin!
When I rewatched the Tournament of Power, I noticed that the only relevant characters in that tournament that were not from Universe 7 were Jiren, Toppo, Dispo, Hit, the Universe 6 Saiyans and maybe Annie Laza, but the rest were just useless and slightly memorable. I think the writers made a huge mistake by throwing all these different universes together in one huge tournament, only for like 90% of these characters to be useless fodder. Another writing decision that caused damage to the multiverse is calling Jiren the strongest mortal in the multiverse and having Goku surpass him in the very same arc. This immediately made all the other universes that participated in the tournament useless, because if Goku is now the strongest mortal in the multiverse, we may never visit the other universes. The writers have written themselves into a corner because visiting most of the universes in the Tournament of Power wouldn't make sense. For example, if Goku and Vegeta went to Universe 8, knowing Dragon Ball, a new villain needs to be introduced and it needs to be stronger than the Saiyans for the arc to have any tension. They will now have to explain why a being stronger than Mastered Ultra Instinct Goku wasn't part of the Tournament of Power. Given that the stakes for the tournament were literal erasure from existence, you'd think that the gods of Universe 8 would recruit such a warrior to improve their odds of winning. I'd also like to point out that the problem of destroying the world building of the story started back in Dragon Ball Z. Hear me out. When Toriyama decided to call Frieza on Namek the strongest being in the universe and have Goku surpass him in the very same arc, Dragon Ball's world building was already screwed, because this told us that every other planet in the universe is full of garbage weak characters. What if Toriyama had instead said Frieza is the strongest in the galaxy? That would leave him with millions of other galaxies to explore and tell stories in. This is the reason Toriyama had to resort to drastic different measures to introduce believable threats, like combining the DNA of every strong fighter in the universe to create Cell. Until the writers of Dragon Ball realized that calling every new villain the strongest is a problem. Dragon Ball will always have a world that appears to be small despite it being big. Now, I know criticizing something is easy, so I'll suggest what they could have done, in my opinion, to avoid ruining the potential of the universes. The first thing they could have done, they could have made the Tournament of Power something scheduled to be in the future. Why? So that there are arcs of Goku and his gang visiting each universe individually. Not all the universes, maybe 5 out of the 7. This would serve two purposes. One, to introduce us to the characters we saw in the Tournament of Power earlier in their own separate arcs. That way, they have their own character arcs and we care about them on an individual level. Don't get me wrong, I don't mean that every single character in the Tournament of Power should have gotten their own arc. Maybe 2 or 3 of those characters would be incorporated into the arc when we visit their universe separately. 2. By the time the Tournament of Power arrived, we would have explored the universes and their characters. Therefore, the tournament is sort of a reunion arc to see how far each universe had come since Goku last visited them. This would fix a problem I had with the Tournament of Power, and is that when a fight did not involve a Universe 7 character, it was less interesting because we don't care about the characters involved. If Ribrian was fighting Obuni, for example, would you care about that fight? Probably not. Why? Because you don't give a shit about those two characters. But if you had a history with those characters in the story and cared about them to some extent, you'd be invested in their fight. The reason Hit vs Dispo was well received is because we have a history with Hit and like him to some extent. The second thing that would have made the other universes more relevant and useful is to give each universe some top tier fighters. Maybe 3 Super Saiyan Blue level fighters per universe, and it's fine to make the rest fodder to balance things out. I feel like that would have made the tournament more challenging for everyone involved. Or the more extreme suggestion to give each universe one fighter as strong as Jiren. That would probably be too much, but the point I'm trying to make is that most universes needed a buff, because if the fight didn't involve the Pride Troopers, Universe 7 was just washing every fighter in the tournament because it was full of fodder characters, except maybe for Kefla and Ani Laza. I know this video may come off as negative, but just to end it on a positive note, I think it's good that we still have 4 unexplored universes that didn't participate in the tournament. That at least leaves us with something to look forward to in terms of exploring other universes outside of Universe 7. So at least there's still hope we could get something new from there, and I hope the writers don't make the same mistake of misusing those 4 universes so they avoid damaging them as much as they have done with the ones from the Tournament of Power.